Well, welcome, Holly. We have Holly here today for our Spotlight series for we're going to be talking about all things birth related. And this is our Spotlight series for the best of Utah pelvic health. And so I'm just going to do a little introduction for Holly here. Holly began her journey as a doula and childbirth educator in 2010 after the birth of her first child. Her first birth lit a light in her that nothing else had and completely changed the course of her life. She completely changed career paths and signed up for doula training just months later. She joined Birth Boot Camp in 2013 and is now the owner and CEO of Birth Boot Camp. Holly has four amazing kids delivered both in and out of the hospital with midwives. She's married to an amazing perinatal and pediatric chiropractor. Their lives and careers revolve around pregnancy and birth on a daily basis. And Holly has a bachelor's in science and master's in education. And when she's not working on projects for Birth Boot Camp or working with her own birth clients, Holly loves to read. Her nightstand constantly has a stack of books she's working her way through, and she's always listening to an audiobook when she can. She enjoys sewing and quilting, playing D&D board games with her family and friends, and which is Dungeons and Dragons, right? Okay. And hanging out with her husband. Well, thank you so much, Holly, for being here. I'm excited to jump in and ask you all these wonderful questions. So let's just dive in. So my first question off the bat, and you kind of answered this a little bit in your bio, but dive a little bit deeper for me into what made you decide to be a childbirth educator and a doula?
Yeah, it was like my bio, like with my first, I went into pregnancy and birth like I knew nothing. Like I had no idea what I was getting myself into. It was just, we had been married and we were like, let's have kids. That's the thing you do, right? So I was really lucky that I had a friend who was like, go see some midwives during your pregnancy. And I was like, I don't know what that is. So, but I had a really crappy experience with some OBs in the town that I lived in at the time. And so I was like, well, I don't want to go see them. So yeah, I'll go check out these midwives. Let's see what this is all about. And so I kind of give her lots of credit because that kind of started me down this road of like doing research and learning. And even though I had no idea what I wanted for my birth, my midwife then told me, go take a class. And in our class, we learned about what doulas were. And I hired a doula super last minute. I hired her when I was 38 weeks and had him at 39 weeks. Um, but I just had an amazing experience. And I was like, more women should be like, feel this amazing after they give birth. Like in our society, there's so much fear. And they walk in and they do what they're told. And hopefully they leave with a healthy, everybody says it's a healthy mom and a healthy baby. Well, yes, that's, our goal. Like there's so much more to it. And I literally switched. My last assignment for my master's degree was due the day he was born. um, but I totally switched. I was teaching fifth grade at the time and I was like, I'm not going back to that. So literally 2 days after I told my husband, I was like, I'm gonna be a doula and I'm gonna totally do that. And I never looked back. I've been doing it ever since. So we just see so much trauma and my goal is to change that. And sometimes it feels like I'm not doing much, but if I can help, one mother, one couple have a better birth experience, then I've done my job.
Love that. Love that. We are so aligned on so many things with that.
Yeah.
My next question for you is, what makes you different?
Well, so I was thinking about that and I'm like, well, I think one of the things for me personally is just the experience that I have in birth work. It can be a difficult, it can be a difficult lifestyle being on call. Um, and a lot of doulas kind of burn out after 2 or 3 years. And so when people hear that I have almost 15 years of experience, they're like, there's not that many of you out there. There's a handful of us. So I think just the kind of the depth of the experience, I've pretty much helped couples in hospital births, home births, birth centers, kind of all of the above. Um, I'm I'm not scared to be in a hospital. Some doulas don't love being in the hospitals, and they don't love that whole like um, the advocacy part of helping your clients get what they want. I don't have a problem being in a hospital setting. Like I said, I had 3 of mine in the hospital. I'm pretty comfortable there. Um, Another thing that really sets me apart is I really focus so much on education and preparation. And I think that that is one reason why I don't have a problem being in the hospitals, because my clients are really well educated and prepared. And so they know how to get what they want. They've chosen a care provider that's going to support them in the plan that they want. They, know what questions to ask. They know what is on their birth plan. Like, they are just super prepared. And I pretty much require all my clients to take a class. Just hiring me as a doula, it's not enough. I don't have, I visit with my clients once or twice during their pregnancy, and that's not enough time to give them all the education that they need. The most popular class that I teach is 25 hours. It's 10 weeks over 25 hours. So they are getting a lot of education, and it's about everything, because while most of my clients want an unmedicated birth with low interventions and things like that, that's not always a guarantee, and birth is unpredictable. And so we are prepared for all of it. Of what if an epidural becomes necessary? What if I need to be induced? What if I need to have a C-section? Like, we cover all of it. So they're just super prepared.
I love that. Love that. Because birth is really unpredictable. We tell our patients that as well. Okay. Next question is, who is an ideal fit for you? Like, who would be like that perfect match?
The perfect fit is somebody who is looking for support and education. The idea is that they are probably no later than like 25-ish weeks, because with my class being 10 weeks long, they've got to have some time to get all of that information in. Now, if they can't make it to an in-person class, we do have it all filmed online on demand. And so that is an option, and they can get that information faster that way. So if they do hire me and they're a lot closer to the due date, they can kind of cram all of that information in. But ideal, like perfect, is if they contact me sometime early second trimester, and we can kind of start that relationship, get them ready, get them signed up for class. And then it's really like we get to know each other so well in class, spending that much time together, that by the time we're preparing for their actual birth and writing their birth plan, like, we are so comfortable with each other. I know exactly what they want. It just works so well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Love that. Okay. My next question is, what does the process look like to work with you?
So if somebody is interested in hiring me as their doula, usually most people contact me through my website, and they just fill out my form on there. And then we get in touch and we schedule a free consultation, and I'm happy to sit down with them. And that can be in person or online on Zoom, whichever they prefer. But we just talk about kind of like what my services look like. They can ask any questions they have. We go over my contract, things like that. So that takes about 45-ish minutes. And then after that, if they choose to hire me, they sign the contract. It's super simple. It's all digital online. And then we're just in communication throughout the pregnancy. We stay in touch. I am like their personal Google. They can message me if they've got questions, and I can send them resources, get them connected with other professionals in the area, just whatever they need throughout the entire pregnancy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What about with birth boot camp? How do they work with you with that?
So if they're taking a class with me, I just get them registered, and it's super simple because it's part of their package. Mm-hmm. But if they are taking an online class, I will help get them set up on that. And somebody can even take a birth boot camp class without hiring me as their doula. Like, they can even just go to birthbootcamp.com, and we've got our online classes there that anybody can take at any time.
Yeah. And talk a little bit about, you were telling me at a previous meeting that we've had together about how you have educators all over the country and all on demand. Like, talk to me how many states you're in, how many options are out there, that kind of thing like that.
Yeah, I can't tell you the number of states yet. My goal is to get us in all 50 states. We're getting there. We do have people coast to coast. Like, we have people all the way on the East Coast, and we've got some people in California and the Northwest and stuff like that. So we do have instructors teaching birth boot camp classes all over. And we do have a directory. So if somebody's like, I want to see if there's an instructor in my area, they can go to our directory on our website and put in their location and see if anybody's there. And yeah, again, if nobody's there and they're interested in taking a class, the best thing to do is just to take our on-demand class. So it's it's a video, it's all streamed, super easy to access. It's with me and one of my colleagues that we teach the classes together, and we have a lot of fun together. So we try to keep them like engaging and active, and they can still do all the hands-on things. It's all just in video instruction. So
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Next question. What does postpartum recovery look like with you, whether that's through the birth education, birth boot camp, or as a doula? Give us that second half of the pregnancy postpartum.
Yeah, that is actually something that I think a lot of birth classes leave out, is they kind of just like glance over this postpartum period, whereas we have a whole class that focuses on that. And so we really focus on what it's gonna like, what your postpartum recovery is gonna look like, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. We include the partners as well, because a lot of people don't realize that partners can struggle with postpartum mood disorders. Like, your world's just changed so much. And so there's a lot of adjustment and transition and stuff. So we talk about all of that. And we talk about like what to expect with baby. Part of our class, they get a 3-hour breastfeeding class as well, taught by an IBCLC. So that is our goal, is just to really prepare them so they're not so deer in headlights, like surprised by what happens in the postpartum. I know with my first, I was completely unprepared for it. The birth was great, but postpartum was really hard for me. I had him on the night of our last childbirth class, and so I missed it. So I'm sure like if I would have gone, I would have had all this great postpartum information. But that's why I'm so passionate about talking about it. Just like, I think knowing what to expect is half the battle.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody would have told me that the second night is supposed to be hard with baby, I would have been like, all right, we can get through this, and just the ups and downs and stuff like that. So
yeah.
So that is a big part of it, is just preparing for it. And even one of my visits with my clients is, we're talking all about postpartum, and let's get a meal plan set up. Do you have people bringing you freezer meals? Do you have family that can come take your dog for a walk? Like, just the little things that they don't think about.
Yeah.
And I do also work as a postpartum doula. And so if they just hire me as their birth doula, I always do at least one visit just to check on them, see how they're doing, talk about the birth, because a lot of times they might have questions about the birth. They might, they're kind of in labor land when they're in the midst of it. They don't remember all the details. So they might be like, did this happen? And I don't remember this. And what time did this happen? So I love to talk about those types of things. But just checking on how they're doing, how baby's feeding, because a lot of times that can add a lot of stress if they're struggling with that. But a lot of clients hire me as their postpartum doula too. And so I go in there, sometimes it's just a few days, and sometimes they're like, no, we want you for weeks. And so I go a few times a week, and it's just helping them with whatever they need postpartum. Sometimes it's just the mom can get a nap and a shower. And those are her main goals for the day. So it's a lot of fun, but I see such a difference in my clients that have a lot of help postpartum. They need support, and whether that's from me or whether that's from family, whether that's from, another birth professional or something, like, they just do so much better.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Okay. Next question. What's something that most people don't know that you think they should know about your services, or even birth? Yes.
That is a good question. I think a lot of people don't realize how personalized it is, because I get questions like, well, what do you do at birth? I'm like, well, every birth is different. Like, it's really hard to say exactly what I'm going to do at every birth, because no two births are the same. And so it really is
from a public health standpoint. I'm like, how do you stop myself from leaking? I'm like, well, that could be 500 different things. So.
Right. Yeah. And some births I'm very hands-on, and some births I'm very hands-off. Like, it just really depends on the situation. And even our classes are that way. Like, I kind of have my outline that I follow, but I'm also like, we can chat about anything. Like, they have the opportunity to like really like break down like what are their fears and concerns, like what, everybody has different things that they've heard about birth, and let's dispel those myths. Let's talk about all these things. And so I think a lot of people just don't realize, well, that's a phrase people tell me, is I didn't know how much I didn't know. or how much I needed to know.
Seriously though.
Um,
Seriously.
I'm hearing more and more of people who are like, well, my birth class, I'm pretty much just like looking up videos on TikTok and YouTube. And I'm like, well, that's great. But you just, do they know all the different induction techniques that they need to look up and do research about? Or do just there's just so much out there that you can't know what all to search on TikTok.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Next question is, do you have any type of special thing that you want to promote to anyone who's watching and listening of like things that you have to offer? Any, like, this is your moment to shine.
Yeah. So we have what we call our birth plan blueprint.
Ooh.
And so I'll make sure that you get a link for that. But anybody can get it. And it just talks you through the steps for writing a birth plan and writing an effective birth plan, because there's lots of templates out there and all sorts of things for different birth plans. And I won't write my clients' birth plans. They have to do it. They've got to do the work I will support them in it, but I'm not going to write it for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it just kind of walks them through of all the things they need to do to get to that point where they can like put pen to paper.
Mhm.
I I really think that there's a big misconception out there about what birth plans are. So we kind of talk about that too, like what a birth plan is and what it isn't. It's not a contract. It's not a, something that's like, this is going to happen. It's, this is how I would really like things to go in best case scenario, but we have to be flexible.
Yep.
Um,
Oh, like a birth preference list versus a birth.
yes. Yeah. So yeah, I'll make sure I send you the link to that so anybody can go and they can get signed up for that. And
Perfect. Awesome. Well,
yeah.
thank you. Okay. Last question. And like, I think this is like the best question ever is what is the main thing that you want to be known for?
Oh, it's that preparation part. Like it's the whole education part. I heard too many stories of people who, they're just going to go and I'm going to try. I'm going to try to do this thing. And if you have no idea what to expect, you're it's not likely to happen. I have seen it happen a few times, but it's just rare. And so so many moms are like, I want to try to do this unmedicated. Then I'm like, then you need to do the work to prepare for it.
Right.
And even if your birth doesn't go as planned, because you've prepared for it, you know how to like navigate it, how to make decisions, even if things have to change.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Preparation. Awesome.
Yeah.
Any last final words for our watchers and viewers here before I let you go?
Yeah, just prepare and learn as much as you possibly can. And definitely look into hiring a doula. They are worth their weight in gold, of having that support.
Awesome. Any you want to list your website, any social media handles, things like that? Let us know where we can find you.
Yeah, so they can just go to birthbootcamp.com or my personal one for local Utah clients. It's just Utah Birth Doula. And yeah, pretty much everything is on those two websites.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Holly, for coming on today and sharing your story with us and answering all these wonderful questions. It was really, really awesome to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great.